Hey guys, Loman02, currently doing a live recording of 100 card singleton, playing with a black splash white deck, and this hand is keepable. On the draw, so accepting our opponent having strip mine or turn one like ritual or like mox like him, we're probably going to get to use library, which I think is what we go for here. So we have the availability of casting the swords to plowshares, so we can kind of bide our time. I think it is drawing the cards. I don't like going swamp and just trying to slam the Black Knight. I think that's bad. Yeah, I think this is definitely... I mean, like, library's in a weird place in this deck. If you don't have it in your opener, it's kind of hot garbage. Because it's very difficult in this deck to draw back up. Now, there are two sideboard Jameday tomes for more attritional matchups where I think I'm going to have issues, resolving and keeping threats going. But this is a ritual deck, so it's intended to be quite... aggressive in how it plays out. Of note, does not run Nev Disk. It actually runs solely Disenchant. Disenchant and Swords to Plowshares for the removal. Underworld Dreams is pretty cool. I'm going to go ahead and draw here. Go up to 8. Alright, I guess in response they're going to draw. That is cool. Okay, another Swords to Plowshares. And I will say go. So we're going to have a Loa battle. Both decks appear to have Loa online. They were on the draw, which is possibly better for them. Depends on how keepable their hand was. My hand, I think, was keepable on its own right, but we shall see. So down to 8 cards. Do you have a spell to cast, good sir? No. So they're going to discard. Well, I feel pretty good about that. I'm just going to go ahead and draw here. So I'm going to play on a Black Knight and get a threat on the board. And say go. And if I can get this Underworld Dreams down, that should be pretty solid as well. Alright, they're going to draw back up. They may have a Swords or something for this thing. That's fine. Oh, I'm sorry, not a Sword. Swords wouldn't work on this thing. Huh. So let's see what they're up to. The cool thing is, I mean, they're discarding. We are not. They may be playing the same thing we are. We're getting hemmed here. That would suck. But that's the break sometimes. At a minimum, we are going to be able to get down this this Underworld Dreams next turn, or we could just do a Juzam. Yeah, I'm going to do Juzam here, I think. I'm just going to say forget the library. I think Underworld Dreams requires Disenchant to deal with. Juzam is a lot easier to kill. And we're starting to get damage in. If they're going to try to library us out, well, they're going to take more damage doing it. So, that's a thing. I mean, it's basically essentially another Black Knight on the table if they're going to start using Loa, or if they're going to continue using Loa. They could just Disenchant it, play a land, and then draw off of it, though. And if they have it, cool. Then I'll go with the Juzam next turn, but that's going to probably ensure my Knight just sticks around for a while. Okay, Black Vice is pretty bad after they hem my hand. So I'm cool seeing that. Yep. Oddly enough, I think actually I'm going to just attack and play out the Knight plus the Bad Moon. I have a feeling, they don't have Disenchant in hand, so I have a feeling they have Swords to Plowshares, especially if they're playing Black-White. That seems more likely, but I feel like they haven't done a lot to develop the board, so they have reactive cards, and Swords to Plowshares is a reactive card that cannot interact effectively with Knight. So I'm just going to land a Moon here, say, hey, deal with this, and hey, deal with this fellow. I should have done that pre-combat, but I'm bad. I'll accept it. Disenchant? Okay. Another reason to not do that. Oh, you cannot because you ditched your card first. You had to take a damage there. The one bad thing about Loa is it does decrease mana efficiency, but I didn't put them on Disenchant. That's odd they had it. I thought they... I guess they didn't have to do it on their turn. At least it ensures my Blood Moon's going to stick around. Could be at a virtual 14 here. Yeah, I guess leaving up swords through the combat step was bad. This is certainly 93-94, and no one's casting, Restoration Angels. Okay, are we going to see a Juzam Jin? No, a Demonic Tutor for what, a hymn or something like that? Maybe another Disenchant. On 2 mana, I don't really know what. Could just be their own knight. Or it could be a hymn. Hymn? Nope, an Order of the Even Hand. Okay. Well, it doesn't have first strike without putting mana into it, so they're going to take a lot of damage. Play it out main 1 like a boss, just because we can. Doesn't matter, they're tapped out. And get in there. Now, the Swords to Plowshares will likely... I do think they have 1 to 2 Swords to Plowshares. We'll definitely go with the Juzam here. Which, stinks, but hey, what can you do? And we've got them in kind of a dicey situation. Obviously, our Swords to Plowshares is looking quite embarrassing against the Order of the Even Hand. There you go, yeah, they had it. Cool, up to 26. I am fine with that. And the Order of the Ebon Hand can only ever trade with the Black Knights, so that's a thing. Alright, they're going to go down to 5 cards, play their own Juzam. Okay. Oh, unfortunately, I think I'm obliged to kill that. I take a damage. I think I'm fine taking a damage here. That's going to put him up to 15, which stinks, but I think it's something I have to accept. Ooh, another Bad Moon? Don't mind if I do. I mean, obviously, it's not great in the mirror. I'm going to probably take him out, but hey. It's a faster clock and we have more critters down, so if they want to... They actually can't block here, again, so... Well, we'll see. They have awful lot of cards in hand, but they are now off the library plan. They're short 1 Juzam. We'll see. They could obviously kill... Actually, can they? So this is only... If they had Dark Ritual, they could kill the Juzam or that. Would allow them to deal with the Juzam. Okay, tons of mana. Alright, they're just going to throw all that stuff down and do nothing? Okay. Play the Bad Moon out properly this time, main 1. And get in there for a bunch. They'll kill the Juzam in the blocks, but it's going to force them to waste a bunch of mana resources and allow me to resolve this Hypnotic Spectre, which is a flyer and is relevant here. Yeah, they have to block the Juzam here, I think. Okay. Well, it's got first strike. Okay. So, kill the Juzam, which is fine. Like I said, I mean, I don't really mind this. Okay, Juzam down. They're down to 1. And they're at 3 cards. I think they kind of had some nonsense in their hand. Let's auto-yield to this. City of Brass is extremely annoying online. Alright, and a 4/4 flyer. So have Swords to Plowshares or your own 4/4 flyer. You need essentially 2 blockers here because any of my threats is lethal. This could get plowed, but I think he... maybe he wouldn't have plowed the Juzam. I don't know. Okay, animate dead on what? The Juzam? Well, that kills him on the next upkeep. So I can just pass it. Yeah, I'll just attack with the Hypnotic Spectre, and if they have the answer, then cool. And if they don't, then they'll die to their own Juzam that they stole from me. Okay, there's no point in hiding this card in my hand, so I'm going to play it out. Because he has him, and if some number of his cards are him to Turek in his hand, then there's no point in just losing it randomly. And I do have Pump Knights in my build as well. Okay, let's begin sideboarding here. What do I like in this matchup? Do I need more Disenchants? Well, I don't like Bad Moon because his threats appear to be not prone to Bad Moon. I do like Paralyze because the white base removal is kind of weaker against his style of deck. I like the Singir Vampire, the Flyer. I actually don't like Underworld Dreams that much. I think I go with like one Jameday Tome and probably one Mazavith is actually probably good. The Jameday Tome, if you can get it resolved early, gives you eventuality against like him to Turek style decks. Once it's down, he may be running Disenchant, but we saw one, so he obviously has Disenchant. But if I can sort of mitigate it. I guess like it does get Paralyzed as well. I'm going to leave my couple Disenchants in there. I think they're good enough. Okay, well, this hand is not horrible, so we're going to keep this. Probably just going to turn one Strip Mine, Black Vice him. Well, or there's that. Okay. I'll go to the next main. Alright, I didn't think you were going to ritual something out. I can't think of an instant that gets me there. So get the Black Vice down. I'm only playing with one. It's possible I want more than that. If you're playing by EC rules, obviously, you know, you cannot. So one swamp. Do we have a ritual into something? Now here's the big question. I think here I kind of exercise a Nambo with my own Vice and just hit 3 cards out of his hand. I'll be able to cast the Hypnotic Spectre next turn. I think this is going to be a sure path to victory, so we get to paralyze a him and a Demonic Tutor. It's 2 for 3, which is not phenomenal, but I think it's disruptive enough because it's random, whereas I'm keeping cards that have a cogent plan, like his plan may be, you know, hindered at this point. Okay, don't mind if I do, and I will go for a hippie here. Yeah, so he's like not casting him, not casting, you know, a Demonic Tutor on his turn 2. We knocked out one of his lands, so there's got to be enough uncertainty in his hand that it's not going to flow as well as he wanted it to. Yeah, that's kind of what I was hoping for there, is that it would knock enough of his hand apart that, and yeah, we're just going to end up doing this right now to knock 2 out. Huh. Yeah, him, I win, which is essentially what we've done. We had a 3-card him and then a 2-card him, and now we're going to get another card unless this thing can't get killed in instant speed and black. Not that I can think of. All right, Juzam down. So we're both at very low resources, but I have the threats on the board. Well, he's at low resources. He's at less resources than I am, I would think. More cards in hand, but I've got the threats. I'm not going to leave myself open to him again. So let's just pump this thing for all it's worth and say go after we hit him for a bunch of damage. For 6, to be exact, and knock a card out of his hand. So. Alright, we get a hippie of his out of his hand. Obviously, the Vice did 2 damage, and that was it. So it's possibly shouldn't even be in the sideboard. I don't know. I like it against like the deck style decks. Yeah, that was pretty savage. Good game, man. Alrighty, so that was black-white aggro, mostly mono-black aggro. It's actually a budgetary deck in the format, I think. Yeah, it still runs a Black Lotus and a Mox, but otherwise it has a fairly low non-basic land count. Obviously, we have a low 2 cities, which can be more pricey unless you're playing a Chronicles version of the cities. Library, I don't think has been reprinted. I think it's part of the. I know it's part of the reserve list. Mishra's Factory you can get pretty cheap. Scrublands are probably some of the cheaper dual lands out there, and then the deck itself is extremely cheap, like Underworld Dreams, unless you're playing like original Black Border stuff. Juzam, yeah, going to be harder to get. I mean, if you're proxying it in paper, you could play Plague Sliver. I think there's other cards that approximate it as well. Trying to think. There's like at least one more that does not come to mind right now that is essentially a 5/5 for 4 in black that does damage to you every turn. Singir, very cheap. Mind Twist, probably pretty cheap IRL. It's not playable really in anything anymore other than like maybe like, EDH, not 1v1 EDH, but just EDH. Yeah, and this is the deck. So, I mean, it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. It's Bad Moon Weenie, Bad Moon Beatdown. It has some top end in the form of Singir, and then obviously the Juzam Djinns. So versions of this deck run Nev Disk, and I'm not convinced that I probably shouldn't be running some number of them sideboard, because the deck, what it has a tough time dealing with is, opposing black creatures and artifacts, enchantments. So you'll see we've done to mitigate that, because I really felt like running the Nev Disk made the deck clunkier as far as from a clock perspective, and you kind of got into like conflicts of interest with the card itself, because you could develop your board early and then just really not want to blow your entire board up to get a couple things that you just couldn't beat. But Swords of Plowshares and Disenchant help bolster that, and if you look at the sideboard, we have an additional Swords of Plowshares, 2 Disenchants, some Divine Offerings. Could run Paralyze as main to deal with creature cards, but it's not a hard lock, even though it's pretty good in the early game where we really want to chip away with our initial damage. Yeah, it's possible I do want like 1 to maybe 2 Nev Disk in the sideboard, though, just to win the unwinnable matchups, because it can do that for you. Although, and I guess, Bad Moon and Underworld Dreams do kind of suck down some Disenchants, so it's possible that like if you boarded into them, they wouldn't, just have dead Disenchants that are suddenly alive in their hand. But the deck is pretty fun to play. It's very cheap to build on MTGO, excepting the Lotus and the Mox Jet, but you could put in 2 more lands, and the deck would probably function fairly similar. Obviously, Black Lotus allows you to have some quote-unquote nut draws that allow you to get out like a Juzam turn 1 or like a Spectre turn 1, although, I'm not even really into those style of plays, because oftentimes, if you're playing against a Swords of Plowshares deck, getting it down to turn 1 Juzam Djinn is just a beating, because you generally have to many for 1 yourself to get him down, and, they give you 5 life, and that's it. So, I don't know. I think sometimes Lotus into like, Juzam Djinn or Hypnotic Spectre, or even Singir Vampire turn 1, it can be a trap. But, it's a thing that the deck can do against certain decks. Against like Rug decks, it's probably not horrible unless they're running like Control Magic out of the board. But, because Juzam is harder to deal with burn spells. But generally speaking, it's not. Against Swords of Plowshares decks, I'm generally not impressed by that line of play, just getting Juzam down turn 1. It can just win you the game, but I think sometimes going forward, especially in the dark, can be folly, and generally you want to wait and kind of see what your opponent's up to develop your own plan. That may seem passive, but, at the end of the day, you only have so many threats, and, you are a Moon deck, which does actually kind of intrinsically weaken the deck in some ways, because the threat density is actually lower. And there's actually consideration of taking the Moons out altogether, and I did in that matchup, because they're actually bad against other black decks, which are fairly popular in Old School, and just like putting in an additional Order of the Ebon Hand and maybe some number of like Urg Raiders, which is a fine card. I mean, Urg Raiders is not great, but this deck is not really expecting to block very much, expecting to generally just attack and then remove threats from the board to enable its primary game plan of just lifing them for 20 as fast as it possibly can. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video of this new black Splash White aggro deck that I'm running right here with no Nev Disk. Pretty fun deck to play. It's fairly linear though. If you want a more challenging deck, I wouldn't recommend it, but it is a solid deck. It plays well, and I do like the white splash a considerable amount. I've seen red splashes as well, but I think I tend to like the white splash a little bit better because it just has the best removal, whereas black, oddly enough, in this format does not have like that great a removal. Like, you have basically Paralyze and Terror, and I think like Demonic Torment. Demonic Torment's too slow. Paralyze is good in only that it costs 1 mana, and Tear is just very situational. Against the artifact decks, it's horrible. That's why I wanted to have the opportunity to have Disenchant, and, in the mirror, it's obviously really, really bad. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and take care now.